Okay, so you're in your 20s, out in the world, making your own way, and bam, suddenly it's like a financial expert, right?
Yeah.
With opinions about how you should be managing your money, it's enough to make you want to bury your savings in the backyard, am I right?
I hear you.
I've been there. I once blew an entire summer's savings on designer jeans because, you know, adulting.
Oh, no.
Yeah, adulting does what I told myself. Let's just say those jeans didn't magically boost my credit score.
Well, you're definitely not alone. It's really common to feel like you're in this financial maze in your 20s trying to figure it all out. Did you know studies actually show that almost 80% of young adults say they've made at least one big financial mistake?
Really? 80%? Wow.
It's true, but here's the good news. It's never too late to turn things around. Even small changes now can make a huge difference down the line.
And that's exactly why we're doing this Step Dive today. We've got your notes, we've got articles, we've even got stuff from that finance YouTube channel you love, and we've boiled it all down to the 5 most common money traps that young adults fall into. But more importantly, we're going to give you the tools to avoid these traps completely so you can build that secure future you're working towards.
And what's interesting is that these traps aren't just about like losing money. It's more about understanding why we make the financial choices we do, the psychology behind it all, and how to make those choices work in our favor.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in with trap number 1. Lifestyle inflation. Picture this. You get a promotion at work, score a nice bonus, and suddenly that cozy studio apartment feels, well, less charming and more cramped.
Been there.
Right. So you think about upgrading your place, maybe splurging on a new car, you deserve it.
As a
Yeah.
millionaire.
And just like that, you're on the fast track to the rat race, making more money, but also spending more to keep up with this new image you've created for yourself.
It's like running on a hamster wheel. You're working harder, but are you actually getting ahead financially? One of the sources we looked at had a great example. Imagine 2 people both getting a $5,000 raise. One person, let's call them Sam, decides to celebrate with a new car, a reasonable upgrade, right? But that monthly car payment ends up eating into their raise, and they don't see much difference in their savings. The other person, we'll call him Alex, decides to put 20% of that raise, so that's $1,000 directly into savings.
Nice.
Right off the bat. That's $1,000 going towards their future goals.
Such a good illustration. And it's not about depriving yourself of nice things. It's about being smart with your money. The sources we looked at really emphasize focusing on your savings rate, not just your income. So, like Alex in that example, challenge yourself to live on a little less than you make, even when you get a raise. That way you're consistently putting money aside and growing your savings without feeling like you're missing out.
That's so important. Building that gap between what you earn and what you spend is crucial. It gives you more wiggle room to save and invest, which we'll get into later. It's about playing the long game with your finances, not just trying to impress people.
Exactly. And that brings us to another sneaky one, something that can really set you back financially, especially in your 20s. High interest debt.
Yeah.
Not just talking about credit cards here, although those can definitely be dangerous.
Oh, for sure. And the material you sent in also talked about things like payday loans, those buy now, pay later programs. These all fall under the umbrella of high interest debt, and they can have some pretty serious consequences for your financial well-being.
It's like this. You take out a payday loan, maybe to cover some unexpected expense, and it feels like a quick fix at the time. But then those interest charges start adding up, and all of a sudden you're stuck in this cycle of debt that feels impossible to escape. It's like quicksand, so easy to fall into, really tough to get out of.
And that's why understanding how interest rates work is so important. If you're only making the minimum payments on this type of debt, it can feel like you're barely making a dent because those interest charges just keep piling on. You end up paying for something long after you've stopped using it.
Okay, so let's say we're facing this mountain of debt.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to tackle it?
Oh, thankfully, there are proven ways to break free. The materials you sent mention 2 popular strategies: the avalanche and snowball methods. Imagine you're a climber facing a challenging peak. With the avalanche method, you target the debt with the highest interest rate first. This might be the most challenging climb, but it ultimately minimizes the total amount of interest you'll pay over time. It's the most efficient approach.
So it's like you said, getting the hardest part out of the way first.
Exactly.
But hey, we all approach challenges differently, right? So if you're someone who thrives on those small victories, those little wins that keep you motivated, the snowball method might be a better fit.
Absolutely. With the snowball method, you focus on paying off the smallest debts first, regardless of the interest rate. Each debt you knock out, no matter how small, gives you this sense of accomplishment, like, yes, I did that. And that can really propel you forward on your debt-crushing journey.
I love that it's like clearing a path one step at a time until you reach the summit of that debt-free mountain. And the best part is you can choose the method that works best for you, for your personality and your financial situation. The key is to have a plan and, just as important, to stick to it. And remember, escaping high-interest debt is a marathon, not a sprint.
And like in a marathon, having a support system can make all the difference. There are financial advisors, credit counseling services. Don't be afraid to reach out for guidance if you need it.
So true. There's no shame in asking for help, especially when it comes to something as important as your finances. Speaking of marathons, let's switch gears to another financial goal that's definitely a long game: saving and investing. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I'm young, I've got time.
It's easy to think that way, yeah.
Right. But that's actually a bit of a myth, and believing it could cost you big time later on. Time is your biggest asset when it comes to investing, and I'll tell you why.
It all boils down to this incredible thing called compound interest. People call it the eighth wonder of the world, and for good reason. Imagine a snowball rolling downhill, right? It starts small, but as it picks up more snow, it grows exponentially. That's compound interest in action. The sooner you start investing, the more time your money has to grow, snowballing into a significant sum over the years.
And you don't need a ton of money to make this work. One of the sources we looked at suggested starting with something everyone should have: an emergency fund.
A must-have. Think of it as your financial safety net, a cushion in case life throws you a curveball. You want to aim for about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses stashed away in an account that you can access easily. That way, if you have an unexpected expense, like a medical bill or car repair, you've got it covered. It's about having that peace of mind, knowing that you can handle those bumps in the road without derailing your financial progress.
Totally. It's like having that get-out-of-jail-free card, just in case. But let's be real. When you're in your 20s, retirement can feel about as relevant as dial-up internet.
Right. It can seem ages away.
Right. But here's the thing. Even small contributions to a retirement account in your 20s can make a huge difference later on. Thanks to our friend, compound interest, those early contributions have decades to grow. Plus, a lot of employers offer 401k plans with matching contributions. So,
Free money.
exactly. Retirement planning just got a whole lot more interesting. But here's a real aha moment I had when we were going through all this. Remember our chat about escaping high-interest debt? Well, imagine all that money you were throwing at those hefty interest payments. Where do you think that money goes when you're debt-free?
Straight into your savings and investments.
Bingo. It's like a financial chain reaction, right?
Right.
By avoiding high-interest debt and starting to invest early, you set off this positive domino effect that leads to long-term financial security.
It's all connected. And it's never too early to start building those positive financial habits.
Speaking of habits, let's talk about those spending habits that often lead to a serious case of buyer's remorse. You know what I'm talking about? Impulse spending. We've all been there. That add to cart button can be awfully tempting, especially when you're scrolling late at night or you're hit with those ads that seem like they were made just for you.
Oh, absolutely. And those targeted ads, they know how to get us. They're designed to make us feel like we need something right now.
Right. It's like they're reading our minds. One minute you're just browsing, and the next minute you're like, wait, why did I just buy a ceramic frog statue?
Wait, did you order that frog statue too? I think I might have also.
Great minds, right. But seriously, the key is to be aware of those triggers, those moments of weakness, when we're most likely to make an impulse purchase. And the material you shared had a really simple but effective suggestion: the waiting period.
Oh, the waiting period is a game changer. All you have to do is give yourself 24 hours, just 24 hours, before buying anything that's not absolutely essential. This gives you a chance to step back, take a breath, and really ask yourself, do I actually need this thing, or am I just caught up in the moment?
It's like that cooling off period after a disagreement.
Right.
You give yourself some space to think rationally, and often you realize it wasn't that big of a deal in the first place.
Exactly. And a lot of times, after those 24 hours, that urge to buy has completely disappeared. And if you're still thinking about it after the waiting period, ask yourself why. Do I really need this, or am I trying to fill some kind of void with stuff?
So important. It's about figuring out the why behind your spending habits. Are you bored? Are you stressed? Are you feeling pressured by those perfectly curated social media feeds we all see? Sometimes addressing the underlying need that's driving that impulse buy is so much more powerful than any budgeting app.
I couldn't agree more. It's all about understanding your relationship with money, what it represents to you, and how your emotions influence your spending choices. Once you're aware of those patterns, you can start making more conscious decisions that are aligned with your values and your goals.
Yes. It's about being in the driver's seat of your finances, not letting them control you. And speaking of taking control, let's get to the final and arguably the most crucial trap on our list today. Ignoring financial education. I know, I know. It doesn't exactly sound like a thrilling Netflix series.
Definitely not the most exciting title.
Right. But stick with me. Think of it more like an exciting journey, a quest to unlock the mysteries of your finances and emerge feeling empowered and in control.
I love that. Like a financial adventure.
Exactly. And the materials you sent really emphasize that financial education isn't about cramming for a test. It's an ongoing process, a lifelong journey of developing healthy financial habits that will serve you well.
And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You don't have to become a financial expert overnight. Start small. One of the sources suggested checking out some classic finance books like Have You Read The Total Money Makeover or Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Classics.
Right. They're both great reads for anyone looking to increase their financial literacy.
There are tons of resources available that break down complex financial topics into easy-to-understand language. Podcasts are another great option. They're free, you can listen to them anywhere, and there are so many to choose from. Speaking of podcasts, I just started listening to So Money with Farnoosh Torabi, and I have to say, it's become my new favorite.
Oh, yeah. I've heard good things. What is it about So Money that you like so much?
It is, right? She's got this super approachable, down-to-earth style. You feel like you're just chatting with a friend about money, not like sitting through a boring lecture or anything. She talks to everyone from like big-time financial experts to everyday people who've done amazingly well with their finances. And it's not all about numbers and stuff. She also gets into psychology of money, the challenges, the wins, and the practical steps we can all take to build a healthier relationship with our finances.
I love that. It's all about finding those resources that speak to you, those voices that make you feel like, okay, I can do this. Financial education shouldn't feel like a chore, right?
Right.
It can be as simple as listening to a podcast on your commute or reading a few pages of a book before bed. And sometimes, those aha moments come from just having open and honest conversations about money, which is what we're doing right now.
Totally. And it's so important, right, to create a space where we can actually talk about money openly and honestly without feeling ashamed or judged. Because when it comes down to it, the more we know, the better equipped we are to make smart decisions that align with our own values and goals.
100%. It's about taking control of your own financial story.
Yes. And speaking of taking control, how can our listeners start putting all of this into action? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground today, from avoiding those common money traps to harnessing the power of compound interest and, of course, becoming more financially literate. It's almost like we've given everyone all the ingredients for an amazing meal, but now it's time to actually cook, right?
I love that analogy. You've got all the ingredients. Now you just need to find the recipe that works best for you. But I know it can feel overwhelming at first, knowing where to even begin. It's like opening up your pantry and seeing a million possibilities, but having no idea what to make.
100%. So if you had to pick one simple, actionable thing our listeners could do today to start avoiding those financial pitfalls and build that secure future they're dreaming of, what would it be?
Okay, so think back to everything we've talked about today and try to pinpoint that one tactic that really resonated with you. Maybe it's finally starting that emergency fund. Maybe it's looking into retirement planning. Or maybe it's committing to that 24-hour waiting period before you buy anything that's not a necessity. It really doesn't matter how small it seems. What matters is that you're taking that first step. Write it down, put it in your calendar, whatever you need to do to make it happen.
I love that. Because you're right. Knowledge without action is like, well, it's like a car without an engine. It's not going to get you very far.
Exactly. It's about taking that knowledge and turning it into power. And that power comes from the choices you make starting today. So here's my challenge to everyone listening. What's one small, manageable thing you can do this week to start moving in a more positive financial direction?
Yes. Because even those small steps can create a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And, this just occurred to me. We haven't really talked about the social aspect of money at all today.
Sure.
Like, how do you navigate conversations with friends who might have different spending habits than you, or when you feel that pressure to keep up with the latest trends? Those who splitting the $50 brunch, dilemmas can be tough.
Oh, the brunch dilemma is a classic. It's definitely something a lot of people experience, especially in their 20s when you want to do it all, see it all, and that often involves, well, spending money. But here's the thing. If you have to say no to that expensive brunch or that weekend trip because it's not in your budget, it doesn't mean you're being cheap or that you're missing out.
It's about being true to yourself and your financial goals, even when it means opting out of something that doesn't quite align with your values, which, let's be honest, that takes courage and a whole lot of self-awareness.
You got it. Because your financial journey is unique to you, right?
Right.
What brings you joy and security might look different from what your friends are doing, and that's okay.
It's about figuring out what success means to you and owning it. And hey, maybe you'll inspire those around you to do the same.
Right. Now, wouldn't that be amazing? A world where we can all talk openly and honestly about our financial goals and support each other along the way. No judgment, no pressure.
Now that's a conversation I'm here for. Maybe we could dive into that another time. But until then, for everyone listening, remember, you got this. You have the knowledge to navigate those tricky financial situations, and you're taking steps, maybe even small ones, towards a brighter, more secure future.
That's right. Keep learning, keep growing, and never underestimate the power of those small steps.
And remember, we're always here, ready to dive into any other financial topic that's on your mind. Until next time.
See you then.